Well, hello everybody. I want to start off this week by obviously welcoming you to the channel and back to the garden update that we've got going on. But first off, I want to, make the obvious sort of comment on what a crazy time we are living in. And, most sincerely, I wish you all safety in the chaos that is going on out there. And that said, I have a favor that I want you all to do for me. However much time you are spend watching the news or flipping to social media or whatever, where you've got some sort of news feed, I'd like you to cut it in half. For at least the next, well, let's go with 2 weeks. That seems to be popular, and I'm a fan of the money pit, so everything takes 2 weeks. For at least the next 2 weeks, as a personal favor to me, I'd like you to reduce the amount of time you spend watching the news or focusing on the news. Basically, you know what? It's getting on garden season. Put that time towards something useful. Have you got all your garden starts ready? Is it a good time to be maybe out in your yard? There are a few better ways to distance yourself from the neighbors than gardening. They look at you like you're crazy, especially where I live, because there's still snow outside. That said, I got to see my bunker garden today. So focus on those positive things that are going on out there. Yeah, I'm surrounded by snow, but I get to see the beginning of my bunker garden, which proves the sod garden raised bed idea works well, because it's the first thing to thaw, and it shows me that it's already starting to absorb a little bit of heat, so my compost that's in there is already going to get a jump start working towards the season. And I think that's probably part of why that garden tends to do fairly well for me. Hopefully it's going to do well with what I've got in mind for it this year, but that's a whole different thing. So I want to get back to a completely different shade of depression, which would be the aphid warts I've got going on in my garden here. But still, even in spite of that, things are coming along fairly well. So let's take a look at the brighter side of what's going on in spite of the aphid wars. So we'll start with the Aphid Garden Harvest Classic Seed Tray over here. And I gotta say, the insecticidal soap did help a little bit, but regular washing of the plants seems to have been doing more. So I think I'm gonna go back to that, and hopefully we can kind of continue to control this situation. The plants are still growing, it's using up its nutrients, and for the most part, things are okay. And I'm still going to say better than this number of seeds would have done any other way that I have tried to garden in the past. While cleaning them up last time, I did try and split this one out here. It had a little tiny, just itty bitty bit of a root ball on it. So I'm hopeful that it will recover, and by next week we'll see a little more growth out of that. But I am definitely going to get back to the individual washing of the plants. And I'm probably going to have to transplant out some of these larger ones, because they're forcing everything into each other, and it's just making it too easy for the aphids to move around on here. So if I get some of these larger ones out, I'll have to wash them in the party cups, but whatever, I'm figuring out a system for that too. I'll show you those plants in a minute, and hopefully we can get moving forward when those pods do get here. I've got some mini bells I want to do, and I've got some orange habs I want to do, and I'm gonna need to get them going soon, because things are growing crazy, and before I know it, it's gonna be June. Oh yeah, that sounds good. Sunshine, green grass, yeah. So down in the trenches of the aphid wars, we do have another little warrior on our side. I saw this little Venus Flytrap was for sale for $7.99, which, almost $10 for such a tiny plant seems a little outrageous, but I just need any help I can get right now. So we got two of them. There's one over in Shox' studio as well, and we've kind of got a friendly competition going. See whose plant can live the longest. As long as either of them live, we're getting rid of some of these little bugs, though, so that's good. Mostly we've got MA faces here, 4 out of the 6. We got the one Chocolate Reaper in the back corner, still doing okay. And the Trinidad bean back there has me a little worried. It's never really come back from the first time I washed the aphids off of it. But it is, it's alive, it's growing. It's just the leaves, I don't know, they just don't look happy. None of the leaves really look that happy now that I take a good look at them. So I'm going to want to look at the fertilizer I've been using, maybe switch it up to one of the ones, a little more nitrogen in there. Could possibly even just need some iron. We will see. Looking at these bigger puppies, we've got the bootless scorpion here. Still got some leaves hanging on for dear life there, so that is good. Still sucking back a whole lot of water when I water it, so that is good. A lot of aphids on there. Been hitting it with that insecticidal soap. Hoping that slows them down. Trinidad scorpion, butch tea red. Not looking too bad. The bad brains in front of it, on the other hand, looking terrible. But how about that aloe and oregano planting, right? Aloe's doing all right, and the oregano at the bottom, oh yeah, starting to come back there. Got some comeback over there. And the third one, if you look way down there, it's showing signs of life too. So the original stuff died off, second growth, second flush setting in. Hopefully that'll do just fine. What do we got here? We got the orange habanero. Looking pretty sad, looking pretty sad. And that takes us to the big bad brains in the corner here. Oregano just trailing down to the floor. Like, at least in this one planting, that seems to have worked out really well. I love how the oregano is climbing up into this thing, kind of like a little grapevine, finding the sun, so-called, where it can, and, well, taking advantage of it, right? Because that's kind of why I want to do these double plantings, especially with the indoor stuff, is because I'm paying for the light they're getting, so I really want to maximize it, right? Doesn't seem like a lot, it's only a 36 watt bulb, but it all adds up at the end of the day, and worse than that, it all adds up at the end of the hydro billing period, so yes. Anyway, so far it looks like this bad brains is going to struggle, but should survive. A couple more months, we can get this outside. The local wild ladybugs will pick this sucker clean. And yeah, hopefully we can have a good, productive year, because that looked like a nice pepper, and I'd really like to see some from natural sunlight. So, yes, the Bula clamshell, got a good watering, got a good spraying, got no leaves. Might try a harsh cutback, see if we get a flush out of that, but I'm not expecting much. And then from there, I guess it's down to the basement to see how things are doing in the aquaponic garden, and how the last of the things on the Darwin table are surviving. So yes, stick around. So I guess we'll start our tour downstairs of the fairly aphid infested still Aero Garden with the two peppers from the kit. Now looking at it, we can see there's some grungy stuff going on in here. They're all glossy because they just got dipped. I took a look and I see a lot of what could be either spent or destroyed flowers. It's kind of hard to tell, but there is a chance there may be a pod forming on one of these, and we do have a lot of flowers opening up still, so there's still hope. I gotta say though, I mean, what with the aphids and the way things have been down here with pepper plants and production in the past, I'm really not holding my breath on these things. I'm going to drop the light back down though, give them a slightly better chance at life, and we'll take a look at the bucket of calanchos. This thing is doing surprisingly well. I mean, it's got the aphids on it, so again, once we get to, well, reasonable outdoor temperatures, this puppy's probably going outside for a day or two, and hopefully nature's predators will clean it up, because otherwise it's kind of a nice looking little planter. It would look great up in the studio with all of the spider plants and the other calanchos, and getting that little bit of natural sunlight that seems to help those calanchos actually produce these wonderful tight little flowers that look almost like fake, really. And then down here we've got the ever suffering spider plants. Some of these things have been in these little tiny cups for just months, and honestly, there's no real sign that they're going to get moved out of there anytime soon. But when you look at them, this is why I say anyone who wants to get started in gardening, or believes they have a black thumb, or they just can't do it or whatever, get a couple of spider plants. It is almost impossible to kill these things. You kind of have to try. So give it a go. You know, if you're not sure about getting started, give it a go. Turning from the Darwin table to look at the aquaponic table. Parsley's doing quite nice. We got the sage beside it doing fairly well. Got some oregano, looks like it's trying to grow. This one pod seems to be pushing itself up and out of the garden in a rather interesting fashion, so I'm not quite sure what's up with that. And as always, it is time to hack back the mint. So things are going fairly well, I'd say, and everything definitely seems to be focusing on where the light is shining from that Sansi 70. So as a spotlight garden light goes, I think it's fantastic. As a table or, grow bed light, I'm just not thrilled. I need something more rectangular, But I love the spectrum, and the plants really seem to love the intensity. The chickens have been doing very well off mint this winter. So, yeah, sage don't look bad either. Looking down in the corner, we can see the long surviving mouse melon needs some water, but I did find a tray that catches it down there. It's an old storage drawer. The bog mint sitting in its little stagnant bucket, not so much as an air bubbler in there. You'd think it would long since be dead. And yet, it carries on. And then off in the corner there, we've got the indoor-outdoor spider plant. That needs to get transplanted before she's going out this year, because that planter has cracked, making it very hard to water. All right. Nice shot that, eh? So I guess this is the wrap-up part of the video. Thank you all for sticking around and taking a look at what's growing on in my garden. I really would love to hear from a lot of you who I haven't heard from lately. A, because of what's going on in the media, and B, just to kind of know if you're still out there. So many of you have had great conversations with me over the years. I do appreciate the time you have spent with me, and I am desperately looking forward to a proper gardening season getting started. Interesting side note, not quite sure what channel it's going to be on, but I have, I ordered a chainsaw online, a gas chainsaw this time, so I know how much that idea terrifies a lot of you, so I'm actually thinking about going live with the unboxing of it, so you guys can walk me through to your own satisfaction the various steps of setting up a brand new gas chainsaw, because I don't want to give anybody heart attacks. This is really not the time for that, but I did want to give you fair warning that I've gotten a new one to play with, and I'm going to be playing with it soon. So yes, much love everybody. Take care of yourselves. I'll take care of myself. You do the same. Everybody wins. Social distancing and all that stuff, but like I say, please, as a favor to me, I would appreciate it if the time you spend watching the news, N-E-W-S, news, just cut it in half. Take a chunk away. You don't need it. It's pretty much all the same thing, just repeated anyway, so step back from it, just a little bit. All right, I love you all. Take care. Hopefully I'll see you next week.